Scarefest Radio is sponsored by Spirit Mechanics for your spiritual health and well-being. Find them on Facebook. MECHANIX. And by Coyote Chris Sutton, bringing light to the darkest places. CoyoteChris.com.
The opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to Scarefest Radio. The original broadcast date is November 16th, 2018. I actually screwed the date up last week. Who screws up the date when they're introducing you to the show? But anyway, I'm Wes Forsyth. I'm your host for the evening, and tonight my guest is Mr. Nic Brown. You know him as the media director from the Scarefest. And we're just gonna have a bull session tonight. Nothing big's going on. It's leading up into the holiday season. Most of you are not even paying attention. I don't have a celebrity announcement. Although I'm going to tell you something. I've got in the next week or so, hopefully. I thought I might even get it by tonight. But we actually do have a rocking celebrity announcement to add to the little pile that we're starting before Christmas. So you're going to be pleased here in just like a week or two. I do want to remind everybody that next week will be Black Friday. That would be our Black Friday episode. And Porter from Tennessee Wraith Chasers is going to try to come on because he's going to be traveling somewhere. I don't even know where. But Porter and I, he started this last year. He was available for Thanksgiving weekend, and now he's stuck with me because until he actually has a home life, I'm going to hit him up every Thanksgiving and try to get him to come on, and just we sit and we BS for an hour. It has nothing to do with the paranormal, has damn little to do with TV. It's mostly farm, family, and practical jokes and that kind of thing. So that's going on. We'll talk about it a little bit later in the show, but the Louisville SuperCon is coming up November 30th through December 2nd. The URL on that, I will go ahead and give that. That is LouisvilleSuperCon.com. That Scarefest will be there all weekend. Scarefest Radio will be there Friday night. I will be there Friday and Saturday. I do want, and when I actually talk about this, I am just going to thank the heck out of the Scarefest people. I feel so important. They're actually starting to drag my ass around to conventions now because I'm so memorable. That's the only reason I can figure is I'm so memorable. Now tonight we're going to be doing some giveaways. Of course, I've got the photograph, and I didn't write the names down. Janina Gavankar and Jessica Clark from True Blood. We've got autographed pictures from Scarefest 6 that they left with us. We're going to give those away probably about 30-minute mark. And our guest, Mr. Nic Brown, has he's got some we're going to talk about it as the project, but Monsters Wanted, it's a documentary film. We're going to be giving away a couple of DVDs if you want a DVD. We will come up with a way to offer those at 15-minute mark and 30-minute mark, just so people's got a timeline. You know, as far as where we're going to do it, I'm probably going to do it on Twitter because I'm going to do 3 of them. Twitter is just so damn much easier than Facebook to give to do it. So load your Twitter app is what I'm telling everyone. Load your Twitter app on your computer, on your phone. Get ready to tag the Scarefest with some hashtag that we will come up with. And that's about all I got. Everybody, Mr. Nic Brown.
Hey, everybody. Good evening. And thanks for having me on the show this week, Wes. I'm really pleased to be here. Uh, like you said, we're in a little bit of the doldrums. I mean, Halloween has passed. The Scarefest this year has passed. So, it's just thinking about, I don't know, turkeys and getting ready for Black Friday, which I celebrate Black Friday by not buying a damn thing if I can help it. So that's just me. As a matter of fact, we're going to Louisville to hide out and watch the Joe Bob Briggs Marathon on Shudder for Thanksgiving evening. I think it's Thanksgiving or something like that on Shudder. So looking forward to that.
Now see, I had not paid attention. Now is this a repeat of his other marathon, or is this a new marathon preparing for his dinner with Joe Bob or whatever the hell it's called?
This is absolutely a new one. I'm not sure how many films they're going to be doing, but it's another one of the marathons. Apparently, the last drive-in was so successful that they couldn't have it be the last, so they're doing it on Black Friday. Or no, wait, it's Thanksgiving Day. I think it starts at 6 or 9 o'clock Eastern. I can't remember which. And it's going to run. They're going to run a bunch of movies, just like they did the last drive-in. But I don't think they're going to run as many. I think they're just going to run 5 or 6. And then they're going to do it again at Christmas, apparently. So the last drive-in has morphed into the thirds of the last drive-in. Could be, I don't know, but whatever the case.
Are they doing this because now I believe that I've read that he's coming back as a permanent, as permanent as you can be on TV, in other words, he'll be doing his, I guess, weekly show on there, and it's like Dinner with Joe Bob or something like that is what I saw.
That's kind of what I've heard too. That's happening, and the thing is. I grew up watching Joe Bob. So I was watching Joe Bob when he was on the movie channel. I was watching Joe Bob when he was on TNT. It was funny with, at this year's Scarefest, Frank Stevens was there. And I remember watching him talking to Brink and to Linnea Quigley about sorority babes and the Slimeball Bolorama back in the day when it was airing on the movie channel. And that's even before it aired on TNT, because that was one of their standard overnight feature films, which, I'll be honest, a film like that, I don't know how you enjoy it that much when it's edited for television, because most of the fun in that movie is the language and the visuals. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I will put it this way. Of course, Brink Stevens being one of the people in that. I tried watching some of her movies in the run-up to Scarefest. I could not find... I told her, I could not find anything good. The good ones were for rent. I could have... But I, cheap bastard that I am. Everything that was available on all the multiple services that I subscribed to, there is some, but the one thing, I think that every single one of them found some way to fit her tits into the movie.
Well, yeah, and
just not for plot development, not for any. No, just it's like there's Brink's breast. That was just it was almost like they wrote it into the script. It might be in her contract. I'm not sure that for her to do a movie that she has to do that.
Well, I'll be honest, Wes. When they do have actresses like that on, it often is in their contract. As a matter of fact, we did the film Wretch that had its premiere at the Kentucky Theater as part of Scarefest. And there's some nudity in that, and yeah, that's in the contract.
No, I don't mean when they signed the actress up. I mean that her agent actually has it put in the contract that she is required. So okay, just want to clear that up for everybody.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, that's a given. You don't hire Bruce Stevens and not. I'm sorry. That's the case. And she's still just as lovely today as she was then, by the way.
Now that's something, since you brought it up, we'll go ahead and touch on before we take our commercial break. The Wretch premiere, of course, that was a big thing at Scarefest. I have no idea how it went because Wesley was doing everything else. But now I understand now that it's actually getting ready to, did you tell me it was coming out on DVD? What was the story on that?
Well, Wretch is going to be released on Blu-ray and DVD in the new year. We're going to be doing a streaming release on it first. So it's going to be available on, Apple, so iTunes, Google Play, Amazon streaming, and this is all for VOD, what's called TVOD, so rental, basically, or purchase. It's going to be available on Dish Network, I think the PlayStation Network. I mean, it's coming out on all the major streaming services. So we're really excited about that. As a matter of fact, we got another film. It's not a horror film. It's an action comedy called Loss Prevention. And Loss Prevention just dropped on the streaming services as of November 6th. And so we're excited about that. The DVD and Blu-ray release of that will be coming in December. So we're generally, the DVD Blu-ray runs about 4 to 5 weeks behind the streaming for us right now with our films. But that Wretch will be the 4th feature film that Top Fly Films in Louisville has done, and it's the 2nd film that I've done with them. And then just because we're a glutton for punishment, we're starting production on a 5th film, and that will be probably will begin initial photography in late December.
Now,
so
what is...
pretty?
You keep saying we're... Tell us, what is your connection to the production company? What is your job title?
What it's what is my job title? Well, for
guy that hangs out on set.
Guy that hangs out on set. Now, I was for Loss Prevention. I co-wrote that with my partners Matt Niehoff and Brian Cunningham. For Wretch, I was straight up a producer. And I often get asked the question, what is a producer? What does a producer do? And the answer I give is that producers write checks and carry shit. And the bigger the check you write, the less shit you carry. So I tend to carry a lot of shit.
Gotcha.
Okay, but that's kind of my role. I'm a producer. So, and, think of it kind of like a manager for what I do. Is as much being a manager for the set. So I make sure the locations are ready. There's food for everybody to eat. People show up on time. I do the schedules, that sort of thing. I deal with all the unhappy actors when, the director pisses them off, that stuff.
Now, associate producer, that's a guy that doesn't do a damn thing. Am I correct?
Associate producers just usually write checks.
Okay, well, the reason I'm asking is I know a lot of people when they, in other words, they know the director or whatever, and they might bring them a cup of coffee once.
You're an associate producer.
Yeah, okay, yeah, and then they get associate producer credit, and so I just where nothing. A lot of times it's the person that actually came up with the idea for something. In other words, they might be drawing a check if everything goes well, but they really don't have anything to do with the movie. Let's go ahead. We're going to take our first commercial break, everybody. You're watching Scarefest Radio, and here we go. Do you feel lost in life? Do you seem to be stuck in emotions that are not yours? Is your home not the sanctuary it should be? Contact Spirit Mechanics, where they take a team approach to your metaphysical and spiritual problems. Spirit Mechanics specializes in aura cleansing, stone attunement, attachment removal, and house cleansings. Spirit Mechanics tailors their approach to your individual spiritual path and needs. Find them every month at Lexington, Kentucky's Mystical Fair, mysticalfairlex.com, or on Facebook by searching Spirit Mechanics, that's Mechanix. Spirit Mechanics, for your spiritual health and well-being. And welcome back to Scarefest Radio, your video gateway to the Scarefest. I just made that up just now. I was a little bit on the fly there. My own producer had to go find out what the hell the dog was barking about. That tells you, what kind of studio we're in. So, since okay, first 15 minutes out of the way. So let's go ahead. We're going to give away one of these DVDs. Now, before we give it away, what the hell are we giving away? Monsters Wanted. Tell us about this project.
Okay, Monsters Wanted was Thoughtfly Studios in Louisville's second project, and it's a documentary they shot about the Asylum Haunted Scream Park in Louisville. And now, whenever I say the Asylum Haunted Scream Park, people immediately think of the Waverly Hills Sanitarium. That is a completely different attraction. This is a traditional haunted house setup, but they have 4 haunts built into it. So they have like zombie laser tag. They've got zombie city, traditional kind of haunted situation, and then another haunt. Plus they have fire eaters and a few other things just kind of wandering around. It's a really interesting haunted attraction. But the year that it really started and became big, my partner Brian was shooting a documentary there, and he caught it all on film, as it were. And it's a fascinating look at the haunt industry. And the funny thing is, there's a lot of those documentaries now popping up on streaming services. The last couple of years, you got stuff like American Haunters, things like that. And when Monsters Wanted was kind of the first documentary to actually look at it. And the really interesting thing is it's got as much drama as any reality TV show, and it was all unscripted, all unintentional. It just happened. And so it's really interesting to watch how this couple, Janelle and Rich Nash, basically they mortgaged their entire lives to finance this haunt. And you get to see whether or not they lost their shirts.
Well, it's still open. I'm betting they didn't, at least, well, they might have and then come back. But anyway. Okay, everybody, let's tag at the Scarefest. Tag at the Scarefest on Twitter with hashtag Monsters Wanted. Simple enough. Monsters Wanted. The first person I see as of tonight, tag with that hashtag on Twitter, with the Scarefest. We will give you a DVD of the documentary Monsters Wanted.
And Wes knows all the Twitters.
It's just a computer. Okay. It's out there in the cloud, I hear. I hear it's out there in the cloud. Now,
that's another good buzzword.
Now, while we got him over here, okay, since we were momentarily ago speaking of Brink, and first of all, I want to say, now, they've not said any more about doing anything like it again, but I thought having the little Scream Queen collection that we had this year absolutely rocked at the Scarefest. I don't know if anybody else liked it, but I loved it.
I would agree, and I think that's an aspect I think is often overlooked. But you know what? There are a number of really, really popular Scream Queens, and most of them are really nice people too. And bring them in. They're good to interact with the fans, and it's just fun. And I mean, I know you had a lot of fun with one of our guests. I think Tiffany Shepard.
I had a lot of fun with her on the show when she came on the show.
Yeah.
At Scarefest, she wanted to eat my dinner. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell the story. Maybe I won't tell the story anymore. But basically, there was this little communication error where all the Scream Queens were supposed to be at a horror trivia out in the middle of the floor. Exactly 60 seconds after their Scream Queen panel. And apparently, everybody failed to tell them. So when I'm, being the moderator, my job is to pass on the word. And I say, hey, they want you on the floor. And I thought that little cute doll baby Tiffany Shepard was going to crawl up my posterior. But at the same time, Felissa Rose, she just grinned and said, okay. And this, So, but to a great degree, I blame that on you, Nick, that I almost got whipped by a 5'4" scream queen.
Well, I'll be happy to take the blame for it. That's fine, because anytime I can arrange for a beatdown to be laid on somebody, that's good. And if it makes you feel any better, it actually, the horror trivia, we did it right out there in the middle of the floor. We had audience participation, and it was a whole lot of fun for everybody involved. That said, yeah, they probably did want to punch your clock beforehand, and they kind of wanted to punch my clock afterwards because of the timing. So it's all good.
So a little extra planning might want to go into that project next year is what I think we're agreeing on.
I think that could be the case, and yeah.
Now, one thing, not everybody, I don't know that everybody associated with Scarefest, or at least from like I said, I mean, the insiders know it. But Nic Brown, in addition to being the media director, which means he's the guy that gets to decide who actually gets a media pass and who don't, is he's an author. As a matter of fact, if you Google him and try to find out anything else about him, you got to pretty well know he's an author to find him. But he does these, the Werewolf for Hire set of books. But now the Werewolf for Hire, I do want to ask you real quick. Now your speech this year at Scarefest was about werewolf culture. Yep. Now was that werewolves have a culture, or was that our culture looking at werewolves?
I was actually, it's funny, for this year's Scarefest, I decided to do something a little bit different. And so I took a look at basically class and gender roles in werewolf films. And, this is a very big topic, actually. There's been a couple of people who managed to con their universities into letting them do PhD dissertations on the subject. So people are actually interested in it. So I just decided to take a couple of films and look at how women are portrayed in the films, and also how social class is portrayed. So I looked at the original Wolfman from 1941 with Lon Chaney Jr., and then I looked at The Howling from 1981 with D. Wallace Stone and a few other people in it. And it was very interesting to take a look at how they treat social class in those two films. The Wolfman really didn't have that much with regards to gender roles, because pretty much the only female characters in it were the gypsy woman, the woman who gets killed, and then the love interest for Lon Chaney Jr. But with The Howling, you actually had a lot of female characters, and the way they were portrayed was very interesting. And it kind of told a lot about how the whole genre of werewolf cinema was changing right about 1981. And that was also the year that American Werewolf in London came out. And another werewolf movie that most people don't even think about as a werewolf movie, it was called Wolfen. And that had Albert Finney and Edward James Olmos in it. And that also came out in 1981. So there were three big werewolf films, and that was kind of the turning point for werewolf cinema, because it had been on a bit of a downward spiral in the 70s, had a really big comeback in the 80s, kind of went downhill again in the 90s, and then came back again in the 2000s. So it's very cyclical. But yeah, the portrayal of women was one of the things that I was very interested in it.
Now, while we're on the topic, I got my friends with the North American Dogman Association, Jody Sykes and Jody Cook and David Sykes, I think it is. But anyway, they David, I think it was, grabbed me at a convention I was at recently, and of course we've had them on the show, and they're looking at this as a cryptozoological thing, and all the stories they're getting, the eyewitness accounts and everything. They hate to admit it. I mean, or I should say they hate to pursue it. But this whole dogman phenomenon is looking more and more like freaking werewolves. In other words, the whole mystical, spiritual, metaphysical, spooky werewolf phenomenon. And so, the reason I throw that out there, everybody, we're talking about it from a movie standpoint, but these bitches might be real. In other words, there are people seeing, eyewitnessing werewolves.
Well, bear in mind, back in the 18th century in France, you had a series of somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 plus murders that occurred in the Gévaudan region, and they were attributed to a werewolf. They called it the Beast of Gévaudan, La Bête de Gévaudan, and La Bête de Gévaudan was described as a massive wolf-like creature that had red and black fur and yellow eyes and had a propensity for ripping the throats out of, and sometimes the heads completely off of, it was mostly women, young women or children. And it did this for 3 years, from 1762 to 1765 in France. And you have to forgive me, I don't have my notes with me, so I know the gentleman's name. But the entire thing ended after one hunter shot the Beast of Gévaudan, or what he believes was the Beast of Gévaudan, with a silver bullet that he made from melting down a St. Christopher medallion that was made of silver and blessed. He melted that down, turned it into a bullet, and shot a wolf with it. And at that point, the entire event just seemed to end. So, and it's funny because I say somewhere around 200. The biggest problem they had with knowing how many people died at the hands of the alleged werewolf at that time was the fact that this was kind of the backwoods of France in 1762 to 65. So there wasn't a lot of accurate record keeping. And anytime anybody died violently in that period, in that area, they were attributing it to werewolves or attributing it to the Beast of Gévaudan. So when you sift through everything, you got about 60 people, maybe between 60 and 200, that definitely died and possibly died at the hands of a werewolf. So do I think werewolves are real? I'm not going to say I don't. Okay? So I'm kind of like that guy from Ancient Aliens. I'm not going to say it was aliens, but it was aliens.
Now, Billy Crank, incidentally, is in one of the Facebook chats, and he says they've got a clear video of one from Octagon Hall area peeking out from behind a tree.
Okay.
So I have not seen the video. Billy Crank might be full of shit. I don't know. But
he might be, but it'd be interesting to see the video. I'd like to see it.
Definitely. You need to post that, Billy, and tag us. So,
yeah.
And by the way,
hashtag Monsters Wanted. You'll get a DVD too.
There you go. No, because people are sharing. I'm looking at Twitter. People are sharing the episode, but nobody has won for posting the hashtag Monsters Wanted. All one word. Monster. Now you do have to squish it together in case anybody did it wrong. Monsters Wanted. I'm searching for the hashtag. You can even screw up the Scarefest part, but we're going to try to give that away. Also, now after we're going to do our break, after the break, I'm also going to try to give away an autographed picture of Janina Gavankar or Jessica Clark from True Blood, which was a vampire movie, but vampires, werewolves, all the same thing. Everybody,
well, they all hang out together.
We will be right back.
Coyote Chris Sutton.
Shamanism.
Spiritual advisement.
Paranormal investigations.
Inspirational presentations.
Bringing light to the darkest places for over 20 years. Go to coyotechris.com to learn more. I begged long enough and someone won your DVD.
All right.
Patty McKinney Turpin. Patty McKinney Turpin. You are the winner. Nick will be getting in touch with you on Twitter. he knows how to get in the Scarefest account to find
I'll
the
figure
whole
it out.
tag.
Yep.
But he'll get in touch with you, and he will get that DVD to you. Patty McKinney-Turbin.
Awesome.
So
Yeah, congratulations, Patty. Or my condolences if you don't like it.
it's always always oversell it. Always oversell it.
Oh,
The,
always oversell it.
Now,
It's good.
pull up our little autograph graphic there. Now, as we give this away, okay, I have 8x10 autograph pictures of these two lovely, lovely ladies. And poor Janina, we have not been able, everybody keeps wanting whoever we put up against her. So if nobody claims Janina's autograph tonight, what we're going to do is next time it's going to be hers or mine. So just so everybody knows. But anyway, you do get a choice. We will mail it to you anywhere in the continental United States. If you're anywhere else, you're going to have to pay postage because if I can't get it out of here for $1, it ain't going. So we got that going on. Let's see. Let's hashtag the Scarefest on Twitter with True Blood. True Blood. That will be our hashtag. And I'm going to go ahead and type that in so I can see if anybody, watch, probably 1,000 people have been using it all day. I should have checked that first. But True Blood, hashtag True Blood will be our hashtag to win your choice of autographed pictures. Now, 3 minutes ago somebody posted about it. But anyway, you'll have to tag the Scarefest so that I know it's the right one. This time, you will have to tag the Scarefest. Because apparently it's still a thing. I had no idea. Now, we started out, anybody from the Waddy Werewolf. Dan Nation keeps bringing up this Waddy Werewolf thing. Well, I take it that's Waddy, Kentucky, which is and I'm taking they had their own werewolf.
Yeah, that's one, and I haven't heard. I've heard the name bandied about quite a bit, the Waddy Werewolf, and I think part of the reason is it sounds cool. Ooh, it's the Waddy Werewolf, and I guess next door it's the Paytona Pomeranian, but I really don't know much about the Waddy Werewolf other than it fits the general description of werewolves, or in Kentucky it seems like we have more Dogman sightings.
Well, see, we do, but see, that's the thing. Okay, Dogman sightings, but at the same time, we're making a distinction without a difference. Because now, when I had the North American Dogman Project on the show, they have all these artist renderings of Dogman sightings, and one of them's wearing a damn shirt, and I said, dude, you've got a Dogman wearing a shirt. That, by definition, is a werewolf. I'm sorry, it is. Yeah. Now, we are watching on Twitter. Let me see. I got one new. It's probably another because they're AKF supporter. AKF supporter. You are the winner. Jade71073. Thank you so much for playing our game tonight.
All right.
So that one went pretty easy. So although now Patty, okay, we're already confused here. Patty, you won the DVD, and you can't. I'm not going to give you both things in the same night. So let's not go there.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, okay. So AKF supporter, we're going to give you the autograph picture. But thank you both for playing, and we'll move on now. B movies. I've been watching B movies. Now you're the B movie man, although I think things have gotten a little neglected on the web here. I'm not seeing any new content.
I would say they have. bmovieman.com, that was my first website. And I ran that from 2007 until, I'm still running it. But honestly, I have let that one go. I've been focusing a lot more on my film production work than on my writing work for the web. But yeah, B Movie Man, and I started that because I've always been a big fan of B movies. So, and I guess the first question a lot of people ask is, what's a B movie? So Wes, what do you think a B movie is?
That's a damn good question, and I'm glad you asked. I don't know something's a B movie until I actually watch it. In other words, it's kind of like if you ask me what's art, I don't know, but I know it when I see it.
I know it when I see
To me,
it.
a B movie is a movie that is made on less than what we would call a Hollywood budget.
Okay.
Because to me, a B movie can be really good, or more often it's really
can
bad.
be-
But in other words, corners are cut in the process. Now, correct my definition.
Okay, you know what? And this is the thing. There's not a really good official definition of a B movie.
Well, then mine
but-
counts.
But yours counts. I think the most common definition has to do with the fact that studios back in the day, and by the day I mean the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, when you didn't have megaplexes with movies, and you didn't have 15 screens, and you're running 15 different movies 6 times a day. What you would have is 1, maybe 2 screens. And, a film would show up in the town and it would play for a week. And oftentimes they would do double features. And usually what you had was a studio feature. So, you had a bigger budget film like you're talking about. And then the follow-up movie would often be something that would be less than studio feature quality. And that was often considered the B movie. So you kind of like a 45 record. You had an A side and a B side. And, and generally speaking, the B movies were ones that the studio wanted to make money on, that they had the rights to, and they would drop in. Or you had a lot of small studios like American International Pictures that would just throw together movies. And one of their most successful ones was I Was a Teenage Werewolf. That movie more than made its money back within a month of its release. And that's why they rushed into production of I Was a Teenage Frankenstein. And then the following year they did, How to Make a Monster, which teamed up the Teenage Werewolf and the Teenage Frankenstein in one film. So, but that's just an example. And you had guys like William Castle. And I'm going to, here's kudos to anybody that knows who William Castle is right off the top of their head. But he's the guy who was behind films like The Tingler or House on Haunted Hill. And these were movies that he made on super cheap. He would usually get one kind of A-list star, somebody like Vincent Price usually. And he would shoot these movies cheap, but he would come up with a gimmick. And he would take that gimmick around the theaters and actually set it up. So for The Tingler, it was this kind of creature that would live in your spinal cord and feed on your fear. And it would make a tingling sensation when it got you. So he put electric shock buzzers into a bunch of seats in the theater. And when it was time for The Tingler, he would hit the button and about 10 or 15 people in the audience would just scream and jump up because, they'd just been shocked. Well, that kind of gimmick. And then, he would also throw out there that anyone who dies during this production, we have a $50,000 life insurance policy because this film is so terrifying that you may die while you're watching it. And that's, and I think for the House on Haunted Hill, they actually had a plastic skeleton that they would run on fishing wire. And so they would start it in the back of the theater at one point during the movie and run it across the screen as the movie was going. And this was terrifying for about 5 seconds. And then they had to kind of stop that because it became the target of projectiles. So everybody had heard that there was going to be this skeleton coming. And so people were bringing stuff in to throw at it as it went sailing across the screen. So that was one of his less successful gimmicks. But he was kind of one of the kings of B movies. But I think there's still B movies today. I mean, you've got the Sci-Fi Channel has groups like The Asylum that all they do is crank out B movies.
I would argue that every movie that has ever been produced by the Sci-Fi Channel would fall into that category. For something that could, for a corporate entity that can make the absolute best series that will compare to anything on TV ever, and then every damn sci-fi movie Nah, maybe not all of them. Okay, I haven't watched them all, but I'm just saying they are famous for
They are. Yeah, they're famous for schlock cinema.
Yeah.
Would be the best way to put
I've never been able to work that out in my head how that works for them.
Well, I was gonna say I talked to I talked to Jim Wynorski. Now Jim Wynorski's the guy who directed Chopping Mall and 911 or 966 Evils. I'm trying to remember. New Year's Evil. I mean, he's done something like 200 films, and he did just a huge number of sci-fi original movies. In fact, he did so many of them they had him change his name for some of them because they got tired of seeing Jim Wynorski's name on it. But I particularly remember I was talking to him. They were getting ready to release Cry of the Winged Serpent, which was a sci-fi original movie. And I was asking him, I was like, so these movies all seem to follow a formula. And he actually broke down for me sci-fi's requirements for a film. And, and this was 7 or 8 years ago. And so I'm sure that the budget numbers have changed. But at the time, it has to be made for under $500,000. It had to have at least 1 to 2 celebrity cameos. And that basically means they would drop a certain amount of money to get a big name star, and I use that term loosely, but a big name star to come in for 1 or 2 days in film. You have to see the monster before the credits, and you have to have a kill before the credits. And there were a few other little criteria, but those were things that basically you had to build your script around these things. So, that was kind of the mechanics of it.
We're going to go ahead and take our last commercial break of the hour. Everybody, you're watching Scarefest Radio. He's making a list and he's checking it twice. But where does that leave you? You've got to come up with thoughtful and affordable gifts for friends, relatives, and coworkers. What to do, what to do. From Scarefest Radio, just click the Merry Christmas graphic in our sponsor links and you will find the kyhorse.com selection of practical and beautiful personalized leather belts, handmade in the bluegrass. It's a Kentucky tradition that fits every Christmas budget. And welcome back to our final segment of Scarefest Radio. While we're on the topic of Christmas, Scarefest passes. Wait a minute. Okay, we're going to give this the full effect, everybody. Okay. Now let that fade out. Anyway, I started playing for the whole time, but I have to adjust the volume and all that stuff. Anyway, the point is, okay, we've got 2 big stars. People are already buzzing about Scarefest 2019, Scarefest 12, Scarefest XII. Now, if you have a horror fan in your family, amongst your friends, a pass to the Scarefest. There are a lot of people. This is one thing that has always surprised me about the Scarefest. We've got people that fly in from Australia. I remember one year we had some people from Japan come in, but we have people from all over the country gather in this little town in the bluegrass for the Scarefest because it's a well-respected, we call it the premier horror convention. If you actually look at the ones that are not corporate owned, it's like, the biggest one or second biggest one in the country. That being said, there are people in Lexington, Kentucky that work at Starbucks that do not have a clue when Scarefest rolls into town. Blame it on marketing, because there is no easy way to market stuff anymore. Used to be you could buy an ad in the paper and everybody saw it and, everybody knew what was going on. Nobody reads the paper anymore. There are 10,043. Well, okay, I'll put it this way. So, one of the services that Facebook tries to sell me every damn day tells me there's 3,000 TV channels now. You cannot put an ad anywhere and reach everybody that might have an interest in something. So anyway, this is all just my way of saying, hey, there are people that don't even know about the Scarefest, but are horror fans. Or just fans and sci-fi fans and paranormal fans.
Yeah.
Perfect chance to get them into the Scarefest. Order them a ticket, slap their damn name and email on it. Boom, it goes to them. Hey, it's a gift. Or have it sent to you and you can wrap it up and stick it in an envelope under the tree. Whatever the hell you want to do, people. But I'm just telling you, this year, because now I'm expecting Platinum's going to sell out this year. I bet you. I'm going on record right now. By January, unless they're willing to stick their neck out for another block of rooms that goes on their tab, Platinum's going to sell out by January.
I think you're right. With the guests they've got lined up, I definitely think you're right this year.
Yeah. I remember that happened, Scarefest, let's see, there was 10, 9, I think it was 8. I'm forgetting, I'm trying to remember the last time, but one year it sold out just like right after Christmas on Platinum.
I want to say that was the year that, wasn't that the year that we had all the folks from American Horror Story in?
It might have been. That would have been 8, I think.
That would have been 8 or 9, yeah.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't.
So,
I don't think it was 9. But yeah, so I think it was Scarefest 8. But anyway, it's going to happen, people. So, especially if you want the treatment, Platinum passes are the way to go. You get that hotel room downtown, as we say in the country. Downtown, and it's just, and I mean, you ladies, you buy that for your husband. He's tickled to death. He's, so look into that. Look into that. These Scarefest tickets on sale now.
And one size fits all.
One size does fit all. And if it doesn't fit all, just get them a damn Saturday pass. See? In other words, you don't have to spring for anything. Just get them a Friday pass, Sunday passes. Kids, if you got kids, it's the whole thing. Before I let you go, Nick, I did have to. We talked about you being an author, and of course, he writes the Werewolf for Hire series, a highly acclaimed werewolf novel series. But he also writes these Stu Bowling adventures. Now, I don't know a damn thing about the books, but I have already go to his website, Werewolf for Hire, scroll down the page a little bit, and Stu Bowling and the Lap Dance of Death. The title intrigues me, Mr. Brown.
Well, okay. There's a story behind it, but I'll tell you, and it goes back a little bit. I was asked to write a short story for a holiday-themed anthology. And the holiday, they didn't tell me what holiday to write, but it was a horror/paranormal anthology. And so I came up with this story that I ended up calling A Grave St. Patrick's Day. Because nobody does St. Patrick's Day for horror unless it's, the movie The Leprechaun. Hey, I'm a leprechaun. Well, I ended up doing A Grave St. Patrick's Day, which did have a leprechaun and zombies, dang it. But the main character in it was a fellow named Stu Bowling. And he was just kind of an average Joe who gets sucked into the world of the paranormal and supernatural. And he gets sucked so far into it that I've started dreaming up other adventures for him. And that's the adventures of Stu Bowling. And, and cats too, apparently. But anyway,
I'll explain that in a moment.
Bowling, yeah. But Stu's first adventure after A Grave St. Patrick's Day, he's asked to investigate strange goings on at a strip club. And it turns out that there's a succubus who's using the strip club as a buffet. And if you know about succubi or succubus, I guess it's succubi, their whole thing is that they drain the life out of men through sexual activity.
Like
and so
every
what better place,
woman ever. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but, more so, they're more overt about it. Let's put it that
Okay.
way. So the strip club turns out to be a perfect hiding place for this particular succubus. And so Stu Bowling ends up in the strip club having to deal with her and, having to deal with bouncers and, $10 drinks that are watered down. I mean, just your typical strip club problems, but mixed in with succubus, too. So there you go. But it's Stu Bowling and the Lap Dance of Death. And that's actually part of a...
I just assumed it was one of those nasty strip clubs that used to be up on Winchester Road. Anyway,
well, actually, I was thinking about one of the one off of Southland, off Southland Drive that used to be there.
I went to a bachelor party.
Yeah.
Well, it was something after Camelot, though.
But
the only reason I remember they made me go, I remember being on Southland Drive. I was at a bachelor party and we went there, and
yeah.
I mean, there were pool tables. I remember that. I remember there were pool tables in the couch room.
Yeah.
So that gives you an idea of how classy the place was.
That's quality.
Now, one thing we didn't talk about was the whole media director thing. Of course, when we had you on the show, we talked about it in depth. But you are in charge of seeing who gets media credentials, and how do you score that? I've asked this before, because here's what bugs me. Okay, there is a person on Facebook right now telling people that he has like 100,000 freaking listeners up and down the East Coast, because and he's got 100 Facebook friends and like 25 Twitter followers, and I'm like,
so how do you know what he really has?
Yeah.
Well, let me go ahead and I'll clue you in one thing. If you're really interested in a website's traffic, go to Alexa.com. And I think I've got it bookmarked, but basically you can find out, and you have to sign up for a membership if you want to get any real info, but you can find out exactly how much traffic somebody's getting. If you go there, it'll show you their ranking in the top 10 million websites around the world. So
but now does somebody's website popularity, I mean, how many factors do you have to put into it? Because Scarefest Radio, for example, I don't know I haven't even checked to see if how many people actually go to the website, but our numbers on, now that we're streaming it via all these different outlets, iTunes, Spotify, it's on the banner, people. Look at the banner. But we've got, and of course, Facebook Live. Overnight, I was looking at the live numbers. When we were doing everything at Scarefest Radio, a good night of live listeners was 300. That was a good night. A lot of nights were not that good. Once we started hitting Facebook and Twitter simultaneously with the website, now the website numbers went down because people are lazy and they don't want to leave Facebook. But our Facebook numbers sometimes now will hit 2,000 and 3,000.
Yep.
The first night.
And that's another, and here's one of the other things. If you really, how hard is it to find their media? And that's one of the other keys. Okay, if you go out and do a Google search for somebody, if you can't find them and they're claiming to have a following, then they don't have a following. If you can, and I mean, like, I know a lot of, and you hit on something earlier though, Wes, that I think is one of the new realities of media, which is you have a lot of these YouTube influencers that have got millions of followers and all that, but the bulk of what you see out there is you see people with 5,000-10,000 followers, and that's considered a fairly reputable following and a fairly reputable site. And so, you look at things like that, but it's changed. So, I mean, just in the last 5-10 years, things have changed so much, because really it used to be that you judged it by the web traffic. Now you judge it. Okay, if it's a podcast, you go to iTunes, you look at, how many downloads they've had. You can visit libsyn.com. If that's who's hosting it, you can see their stats there. Get them to send you clips of that if they're interested. And the other thing is you just look at the kind of quality of their coverage that they're giving. If it's somebody who does crap coverage, even if they got a lot of followers, you don't necessarily want to have them come into the show. But if it's people that have really, if they're putting a lot of heart and soul into it, even if they don't have as many, like we had one of the ladies from Australia actually first came over as media, and we also had a woman from France who came over as media, and now she runs, I think it's Haunted France, and does a lot of Twitter streaming and stuff like that with paranormal shows. And you get some really good coverage from stuff like that, but maybe they didn't start out big, but they become big. So, and my thing is, if you come across as professional and legit, then you're up for consideration. If you come across as some idiot with a webcam, probably not. And that's, you can usually tell.
And I still straddle that fence just very, very carefully between idiot with a webcam and coverage. But
I don't think you straddle it. I think you fell off of it. That's beside the point.
That's absolutely okay. I think we're pretty much at the top of the hour. Oh, I do. Okay, last thing we got to talk about: Louisville SuperCon, November 30th. Yes, we are going to try to do a live stream at 7 p.m. Eastern time zone because the convention shuts down at 8, and I didn't want to do it from the parking lot of the Ramada Inn. So we're going, but Scarefest will be there all weekend. I got a double booth, so I think it was an accident. I don't think Layla meant to ask for one, but based on the email, because I noticed a typo. Anyway, that's beside the point. But anyway, we got a double booth. So we got lots of room. I don't know what all they're taking. I'm sure they'll have a buttload of T-shirts and swag if you're wanting some souvenirs. But I will be there all day Friday, most of the day Saturday. I'll walk up. I will give you an autograph picture. I have autograph pictures in my briefcase. I will give you an autograph picture if you just say, "Hey Wesley, I want an autograph picture." And if I get a place to do it,
to be clear, it won't be an autograph picture of you, right?
No, I have autograph pictures of me. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll sign your damn cell phone. How's that? You take a selfie and I'll sign your cell phone. But anyway, now, and if they let me, I'll do my really bad tarot card readings. But that's we haven't discussed the business side of. Hell, I just found out I was going like Monday of this week. It was kind of an afterthought. It was, oh, by the way, do you want to stream? I said, okay. So, but I am going. Scarefest will be at Louisville SuperCon. That is December 30th through December 2nd. And LouisvilleSuperCon.com if you don't already know about it. Or, yes, find them on Facebook. It's not that hard. That's about all we got for tonight, everybody. Nick, thank you so much for coming on. Anything else you need to plug before I let you go?
You know what? Just, folks, if you would go to iTunes and do a pre-order on Wretch. That's our horror movie. It's paranormal, thriller, horror, and I highly recommend it. It was very popular at our world premiere at the Scarefest. Come by and check that out. Also, visit the bmoviecookbook.com. You can get a copy of the cookbook that I wrote with my wife, which looks something like this. You can't see that because of the light, but hey, trust me, it's cool.
Well, very quickly, what is the B-Movie Cookbook? Is that like recipes that you saw in B-Movies and you decided to come up with them, or what?
Actually, it is. My wife and I wrote this. She has written several history books about Kentucky, including a culinary history of Kentucky, which is a combination recipe book / history book. And we decided we wanted to do a project together. So we picked 15 movies from the 1950s. She created recipes built around the movies. And I wrote up what the movie was about added some trivia, got some poster artwork, things like that. And we put together this book with about 75 total recipes in it, and talks about 15 movies with trivia. And it's just got a fun cover. Visit bmoviecookbook.com and you'll see what I'm talking about. But some of the dishes include sushi from Godzilla. You've got the blob mange, which is a blancmange for the blob. You've got chocolate bark from Hell It Came, which has a tree monster. And all kinds of dishes for the Thing from Another World, because all they do in that movie is talk about food, it seems. So anyway, that's the B-Movie Cookbook.
There you go. And the last thing I need to tell everybody is that if you follow me on Facebook, you saw this week that, yes, I did bring some feral cats in the house. I brought one that I took a picture of. They were freezing to death in our barn. The mommy just pretty much abandoned them, which is what feral cats do. And so we brought them in. And yes, they are all terribly, terribly domesticated and are now running around my studio. And I cannot wait for them to go back to the barn. I'm just going to put it that way. Everybody, this has been Scarefest Radio. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's show. Looking forward to next week. Don't forget, it's Black Friday, and we have a Scott Porter from the Tennessee Wraith Chasers coming on to cut the shit with Wesley.
All right.